20-second delay here. All right, we got Robert Meyer Burnett in the house. Starting in 3, 2, 1.
Get over here! Hi, I'm martial art master Daniel Casino. You know me as the original Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, and Smoke. You are tuning in to NerdCage Live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Don't miss an episode or you'll get caged. So let's finish him.
This is Anthony Marquez, better known as Kung Lao for Mortal Kombat. Make sure to like and subscribe to NerdCage Live. Be there. Us.
Hey everybody, this is Dave Niebor from Dog Eat Dog, and you're watching NerdCage Live. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel. These are great guys doing what they love to do.
NerdCage Live and gaming are a perfect match.
Shoot the J, Joe. Okay. Shoot it! All right!
Over on NerdCage Live on Twitch, Jay and Joe go live.
Call me Bazooka Joe.
It's all about you.
Kaboom!
Playing both old school and new school games every Tuesday night. Ooh, what a sight!
Jay, stop looking at her face and run. But she's so beautiful.
So be sure to follow NerdCage Live on Twitch.
Run for your life, Joe. Run for your life, Joe.
Running!
Run faster! Oh no, Joe! The galaxy's doomed because of you!
To scratch your gaming itch.
Oh, nice kick, Joe.
Thank you.
Yo, that's diabolical. Wait. Yo!
That's twitch.tv/NerdCage Live.
Hi, I'm Leah Montalongo, the OG Sindel. Please like, subscribe to NerdCage Live.
This is Ernie C. from Body Count. You're tuned in to NerdCage. Can you like and subscribe?
Hey guys, it's the original Shao Kahn, Brian Glenn, and I'd like you to subscribe to NerdCage Live.
It has begun.
If what you say is true, the Shaolin
And the NerdCage
could be dangerous.
Greetings, citizens. You're now trapped in a NerdCage. We hope you have a smashing good time.
You're now about to witness the strength of geek knowledge. Hello and welcome. That's right, you are trapped in NerdCage Live. This channel is a celebration of all things pop culture, including yours truly, movies, physical media, all things filmmaking. If you are new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe. I'm your co-host, Jay St. G, certified geek, 7 days a week, coming to you live from yours truly, the land of the orange, the land of Tom Cruise, the land of Anthrax, the land of Earth Crisis of Syracuse, New York. And our moderator and trollhammer, Joe of FallenOne Gaming, is absent tonight. He's out saving the world, but he'll be back tomorrow with me on Twitch. More on that later. But tonight, it is my honor to welcome a very, very special guest. In the house, we have filmmaker, documentary filmmaker. He's also a YouTuber on his own channel called the Burnettwork. Does Robservations. You also may know him from the John Campea show. Ladies and gentlemen of NerdCage Nation, please give a warm welcome to Robert Meyer Burnett. How are you, sir?
It is a great honor to be here, sir. I'm happy to be in the cage. I'm happy to get into it, mix it up a bit. So, yeah, it's good to be here, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you very much for being here. And before we go any further, some quick stuff to go over. If you haven't already, we have a couple new videos out. Please check out our Beetlejuice Haunted Apple Green Fanta food review. That was a fun video, as well as our Wednesday cereal food review. Our previous live stream with Hyle Russell of The Conversation and DKVine.com. And please, tomorrow night at midnight, join us as we continue our playthrough of Max Payne for PS2 on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/NerdCageLive.
Wow.
Tuesday, we'll be back playing Batman Arkham Asylum. And of course, if you haven't heard the news already, I will be at the Cleveland Gaming Classic in Cleveland, Ohio, with my fellow YouTubers, Justin McCollum, Tosif Kamidogu, Tabmuk99, as we gather for the Mortal Kombat 3 reunion. And speaking of Mortal Kombat, join us on Tuesday, September 24th on twitch.tv/NerdCageLive, as Joe and I will be playing the Mortal Kombat 1 Chaos Reigns story expansion. All right, enough of my BS here. It's all about Robert Meyer Burnett tonight. So for starters, Robert, you are I understand you are a filmmaker and a documentary filmmaker. You've been working in Hollywood for years upon years upon years.
Oh my God, for too long. I'll never leave. Concrete Blonde has a song called Still in Hollywood. I feel just like that. Yeah, I've been here. The first thing I ever worked on, first thing professionally I worked on was probably before you were born, but it was the summer of 1989. And my first job was I was the art department production assistant on Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
I was 3
for
actually.
New Line. Oh, you're born. That's good. That's good. Yeah,
my first younger.
My first day on the job, I went to the set of Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
The Dream
because
Child.
they're both they were finishing up shooting effects sequence, and I was taking, because they're both New Line movies, and I was taking whatever they could and filling up the truck and taking it up to our set. So, and I got to watch this motorcycle gag when the motorcycle like melds with the ride. It was pretty cool.
The wires and
it was.
He's got
it was
the need
awesome.
for speed.
Yeah. Yes. I like the first Nightmare on Elm Street. The first 5 are really good.
Yeah, I think I'm in the minority here, Rob. My favorite, I actually like the first 2. 1 and 2. I know everybody dogs on 2.
Yeah, I know.
I like 1 and 2 the most, honestly.
1 and 2 are great, but I think Chuck Russell's Dream Warriors is great.
Yeah.
And then the Granny Harlan's 4, Dream Master.
Yeah, funny thing is we on JoeBlow.com we interviewed Rennie Harlan and Chuck Russell on numerous occasions for Joe Blow.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and then Chuck Russell directed the before, or it was right after he did the remake of The Blob.
Yeah.
So
that was a great remake.
Which is good.
Practicality.
Yeah.
Also, not to jump ahead, Rob, but one thing I do want to talk about some recent movies, but if I'm not mistaken, so Deadpool 3, because I watched your show. So in Deadpool 3, Deadpool Wolverine, the footage that we saw during the end credits with Green Day, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, we saw some behind the scenes footage of X-Men.
Yes.
That was you. That was your footage. If I'm not mistaken.
It's the X-Men 1 and X-Men 2 footage. I mean, I believe it came from our documentaries.
Yeah.
So I produced the X-Men 1 material was actually shot by Tom DeSanto and a couple of other people. And we used that footage in our documentary that you can see on the X-Men 1 and X2 Blu-rays and 4K discs.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did that back in starting in 2000. It's sort of interesting. I was working for a company called Curdy Pellerin, and they started out doing special features for the big the big Disney Laserdisc box sets. And then I got hired when DVDs came in and they became huge. The company transitioned over, and I knew the head of the company, Michael Pellerin. He's an old friend of mine. And he called me up and asked me if I wanted to come to work for that company. And I had made my film Free Enterprise, and I was working at NBC, cutting promos for the Olympics and the primetime season. Then I started working there. I was moonlighting there. I'd work at NBC during the day from like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then I'd go work in Hollywood on special features I started out working on the Fantasia anthology. I worked on Snow White. I worked on The Emperor's New Groove. I did a feature-length documentary for the making of Tron for that 20th anniversary DVD, which was really cool. I'm really proud of that documentary, actually. And then we got Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And so I was working on all those things that were going back and forth to New Zealand, which was amazing. But I get a call from MGM, the home video department, and the woman that worked there, the executive, said, I heard that you're a friend of Bryan Singer's. And I said, yeah, we were at USC together, and I knew him from the Academy of Science Fiction, Horror and Fantasy, and that's how we became friends in like the early 90s. And she said, well, we want to do a special edition of Usual Suspects. And I said, okay. And she goes, well, we're having a problem getting Bryan involved. And if you can get him involved, you can produce the disc. And I said, okay. So I go to my boss and I said, hey man, I think I can bring in Usual Suspects. And my boss, Michael, was like, well, we have all the Disney stuff and we're doing Lord of the Rings. So I don't know if we have any time or anybody who could work on it. He goes, but you should do it. But I don't want you to leave here. I want you to do it in your spare time, but I want you to stay here. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I was working with another filmmaker named Carrie David. She's a documentarian now, but we had a company together. And then I hired my buddy Dave Parker, and we did Usual Suspects. And we went and we had to interview the 5 suspects, and then Bryan and John Ottman, the editor. And so suddenly I had my own DVD production company. Wow. I had a day job working as a DVD producer, content producer at Curdy Pellerin, I was making a feature length documentary about the making of Tron. And so one day I set up an interview with Bruce Logan, the director of photography for Tron, who'd also worked on like 2001. And I didn't have anything else to do. So I brought in Gabriel Byrne, who I was interviewing for Usual Suspects. So I was doubling up on projects, even though I was charging it to one project or another, but it all worked out. And after that, Bryan kept giving me work. I got a call from Fox. They didn't like their first X-Men disc because DVDs were kind of just starting out, and they wanted to redo it.
1.5 DVD.
Yeah. And that's what all of our special features were on. At the same time, I was also started work on X-Men 2 while it was filming. So I was going back and forth to the Vancouver set of X-Men 2 and filming interviews with the cast and crew and behind the scenes stuff with Bryan. And it was great. And suddenly I'm doing X-Men for my own little company. I did Usual Suspects, X-Men, and X-Men 2. Those were my first, while I was working on Lord of the Rings. And then that went on till 2005. Then I had a conflict of interest. Disney called me and asked if I would do Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Chronicles of Narnia, because they were shooting.
Calls, you can't say no. I mean,
and they love my Tron documentary and stuff. And I had to tell Michael after we finished Two Towers, we hadn't started on Return of the King yet. And I said, listen, I have to go. I have to leave. And he thought he was going to get Chronicles of Narnia, but they were giving it to me, and I was just like, so suddenly I'm at odds with my own company. So what I did was I put together a team, and then we went to New Zealand for 14 months and covered the making of Chronicles of Narnia. And then I kept working on DVD stuff. I came back, and then Bryan Singer called me again and said, I need you to go to Australia for a year and work on Superman Returns. So I'm like, let me check my schedule. Okay. Ooh. So I went to Australia for a year and then came back, and then I produced a movie I produced a horror movie called The Hills Run Red for Warner Brothers, and just kept going after that. And then back in 2010, I was editing a serial killer movie called My 11th. In this same office was a guy named Roger Lay Jr., and he was making a documentary. And then he got the job for doing Star Trek The Next Generation, doing all the special features. And so I worked on Next Generation and Enterprise for 3 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
And yeah, it was pretty interesting. And then I went back in and was editing. I started editing low budget features back in 2015. I worked on this Star Trek fan film called Prelude to Axanar that kind of turned into a shit show. But and then I started editing movies again in 2015, and I edited 3 films, and then I edited and produced a movie called Tango Shalom, which came out theatrically in 2001 or 2021. And now I just finished up producing a movie called White Devils, a feature film that we're doing now. And I'm going to help go cut the trailer for it over the weekend. And then I'm producing my audio drama, True Noir.
Yes.
The assassination of Anton.
You told me that privately when I invited you
on.
By the way, people in the chat, if you have questions for Rob, please don't be shy. I see Joe in the chat. I see Rachel in the chat. I see Fisk Vicious in the chat. Thank you for being here. So, Rob, I don't mean to go out of order. I can't help myself because my brain's gone all over the place. But
no, ask me whatever you want.
Take us back to the beginning, though. I want to know, young Rob, what was the moment in your life that you decided you wanted to be a filmmaker?
Well, I'll tell you when I fell in love with it. So, it was from a very early age. And when I was a kid, I was obsessed with like Star Trek and the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits. And the thing, when I was 5 years old, that's when I remember seeing a movie that changed my life, which was the original War of the Worlds from 1953. I saw it on Sunday afternoon on our Sci-Fi Theater up in Seattle, and I couldn't believe it. And I started recognizing one name because the movies that were on Sci-Fi Theater always had this name attached to them that I loved, which was producer George Pal. He produced When Worlds Collide, Conquest of Space, Destination Moon, and War of the Worlds. He also produced The Time Machine. I loved his movies, and he was the first person, like I didn't care about actors so much, but I was interested in people that made the movies. And George Pal was the first person. And then, I became a movie fanatic, and I started reading books on movies and watching more movies, and then reading magazines like Famous Monsters of Filmland, Forrest Ackerman's magazine, and they would talk about the people that made movies. But really, what happened that solidified my desire to make movies, where I really kind of understood that I could probably get involved, was when Star Wars came out. And when Star Wars came out, I was 10, and the thing about Star Wars was they had the Making of Star Wars documentary.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get enough of that. I was totally fascinated by how they made that movie, and I had read a book already. I mean, if you go back even further, there's something I forgot to mention. There's a book called The Making of Star Trek by Stephen Whitfield, and that had behind the scenes photos of making Star Trek the original series. And that was Star Trek the original series was my absolute favorite thing when I was a kid. I was completely obsessed by, and to a certain extent still am. Yeah. 50 years later, I was obsessed with Star Trek. And Stephen Whitfield's book, The Making of Star Trek, was all about how do you make a TV series. And that was the first time that I realized that things are made. Like, as I was 6 and 7, I probably read that book 100 times. I mean, I went through copies of it because it just fell apart. The spine fell apart. I read them so many times. And then David Gerrold's book on the making of Trouble with Tribbles came out. But then Star Wars came out, and they had things like the Ralph McQuarrie portfolio of production artwork. They came out with the Art of Star Wars book. And then there was like the sketchbook and the blueprints, the set blueprints, and all this stuff was coming out at the time that really solidified my desire to make movies. Of course, living in Seattle, I didn't really know how I was going to get into doing that. And then I want to say when I was 9, probably, I got a Super 8 camera with an intervalometer in it, so I could shoot single frame stuff, and I started making movies. You know, I started making Super 8 movies. A lot of them were made with my Star Wars figures. I made an epic documentary about an epic. It was like 10 minutes long, and for Super 8, that was epic, about these aliens that were killing the kids in that lived in my neighborhood. It was 3 different short films I put together into one film. It was in Encounter 1, Encounter 2, and Encounter 3, and I cut them all together as Encounters.
Now, did you go to film school?
No, this is when I was like 9 and 10 years old.
Oh, okay. But eventually, did you go?
Yeah. I went to when I went to college, I grew up on Mercer Island, Washington, which is a suburb of Seattle. And, and another thing that happened is that in 1980, I got a VCR. And back then, no one had VCRs. And there was no video stores yet. And I worked at what was considered the second video store in the United States. And so I worked in home video from 1980 to 1988 I was first working at video stores and moved over to Laserdiscs in 86. And it was an amazing time because the home video explosion really drove Hollywood. I mean, Hollywood was making a lot of money from VHS. So even though I wasn't working technically in the film business, I was at the very beginning of watching the home video business grow. And my boss, the guy who owned my video store, he started the Video Software Dealers Association of America, which is a lobbying group, and they had a big convention in Vegas. So I worked for him, and I started to really become serious about movies. And with home video, you could study movies, and I was always going to film festivals and things in Seattle. We had a lot of different film events. And so I wasn't the best student in the world because I was a bit distracted. I mean, I got A's and B's, but I should have had all straight A's, and because I was too busy with my interests. And so I went to, there's this college in Washington State called the Evergreen State College that had they had great facilities and arts programs, and they had 16 really nice 16 millimeter cameras, and you could get access to stuff. And I was going there, and they started this thing called Community Artists Television, where you could make pretentious art films and they would show them on TV. And so and we would just do anything and everything. You know, we made videos, we made wacky sketch comedy things. And I shot a short called Baby's Blood that I shot on 16 millimeter that was based on a story by a guy named Alan Ryan about a guy who sells a drug that turns out to be the blood of infants. So I was
brutal, Rob.
I was like, yeah, so there you go. And then it was always my intention to transfer out of Evergreen and go to USC, and I did that. And I went to USC and I got my first industry internship. I got hired out of a class at USC by these 2 producers. And that was actually the first time I worked anywhere in the industry, for 2 producers named Mark Levinson and Scott Rosenfeld, who went on to executive produce Home Alone. But they gave me my first quote unquote. Oh, they produced that, and then I was off to the races.
That's
I
awesome.
left US.
I do have a question in the chat here. Rachel just wants to know what it was like to work on Free Enterprise.
So Free Enterprise was the first movie, the only movie that I wrote it, co-wrote it. I directed the film and I edited the film, and it was a dream come true. You know, Nicholas Meyer, I think, said that it takes 10 years to become an overnight success in Hollywood. You have to put in 10 years before you get to be an overnight success. Yeah. And I always said I'm gonna direct my first. I moved to California right after my 21st birthday. So I had till I was 31 to make my first movie. And I did that. You know, I did that, and I made a movie with my good buddy Mark Altman that starred my childhood idol, William Shatner. I mean, it was look, it was really difficult. The process of getting the movie made, getting any movie made is even before you get on set is aggravating. And trying to find the money and trying to cast it and deal with all the people. And we had a long time to get Shatner, and that was tough. And then when shooting it is tough because you never have enough time and you never have enough money. And we were trying to make a movie. I learned a lot on that movie. Like, we had company moves, meaning we had to go to 2 locations per day, which I would never do again. But it was both the greatest time of my life, and it was also the most frustrating and aggravating time of my life. Yes. But I wouldn't have traded it for the world. And it was, you know, my dad, who's passed away, he's in that movie. He's in that movie as scenes with William Shatner.
That's wonderful.
And
By
yeah,
the way, I
and
just
it's
met
great.
him a few months ago for the first time.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's amazing.
He did a autograph appearance in Syracuse at the mall, so I got to meet him, got a picture with him. It was brief, but I could say, you know, I'm proud
you
to
can
say
say you
that
met
I
him.
met William Shatner. And
He was, I mean...
My parents were Trekkie. Well, I wouldn't call them Trekkies, but my parents loved the original Star Trek and the Next Generation.
Yeah.
Next Generation was my jam, but I don't have it with me. It's in my pile of physical media that I have, but I had him sign the DVD set of the first 10 Star Trek films. I had him sign.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, no, he was great. It was so wild. He was my childhood idol. Yeah. I mean, and in a way, I kind of, the only thing, I'll tell you what was interesting about when that movie was over and it started playing festivals. And like, we went to the Cannes Film Festival, to the market there, not the festival itself, but the film market that goes. We went there with Shatner to sell the movie internationally. I mean, I went to France with William Shatner, and it's like I can't. It's wild, and there was a really interesting thing that happened, because my only goal in life was to make movies. You know, from the time I was a kid, and I did it. And it was funny because I only had a plan to make a movie. And you think that once you've made a movie, like if you're going to study to be a doctor, once you become a doctor, you're a doctor.
Yeah.
And so I just assumed that if I was ever able to make a movie, that I would continue to make movies. And I have not directed again. I've produced, like, you know, I've produced the Agent Cody Banks movies, and I've developed and produced those, and I've produced movies for the last 15 years. But it's like I haven't directed again because the movie didn't make any money. And when it came out, it was this obscure little cult movie. So I couldn't get a job. I tried getting jobs. I came close to directing a movie called Dude, Where's My Car?
I love that movie.
Yeah, I was almost, it was between me and another guy, and I was going to get it, but then they changed what they wanted to do with the movie. And so I didn't get it anymore. I didn't get it, but that could have changed my life. But still, you know, if I had, it allowed me to fall into the DVD world, and as a fan, be on the sets of movies like X-Men 2, or go down to work on Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia and Superman Returns. So, I mean, do I wish I was richer and had more money? Yes, because it gives you more freedom.
Yeah.
I've been stuck in the indie world, but on the other hand, I've had a blast.
Yeah,
I've had a blast.
You've lived the dream. You're still living the dream in the way I look at it.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And I'm this audio drama. I always loved audio dramas when I was a kid, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And this thing I'm making now, I wish we were making a movie because my cast is incredible. You know, and the cast I got Katie Sackhoff, I got Bill Sadler, who's the villain in my own horror film, but in Die Hard 2. And I mean, it was funny. I was watching The West Wing the other night, and Don McManus, who's one of the actors in our movie, he was in this episode I was watching. And it's been, C. Thomas Howell is in this thing, and it's the cast is just amazing, and I'm directing them, and and we're still not done. I'm gonna be directing for another 2 more weeks, and then start putting it together. It's called True Noir: The Assassination of Anton Cermak, and it's based on the books of Max Allan Collins, and it's really cool.
Podcasting that we live in, it's just crazy in the world that, so, you know, before television was a thing, you know, audio dramas was all the rage during the when radio was prominent, you know, in the 30s and 40s and 50s and whatnot, and now we live in this podcast world. Everyone has a podcast, and now audio dramas are coming back. I mean, Disney's doing some, Marvel and DC have them, like Sandman and so on and so forth. Like,
yeah, and
crazy
what I wanted to,
we've come full circle again like that.
Yeah, and for True Noir, what I've done is I've taken more of it sounds like you're listening to a movie. So it's produced, edited, designed, recorded, and mixed as if it were a feature film. So when you sit down and listen to it, you're going to be like, wait, where's the movie? It's not like an audio. It's not made like an audio drama. I mean, when the characters are talking to each other, it's rapid fire dialogue. It sounds like you're watching it or hearing it. And that was by design. So I'm having a great time doing that. So it's so much fun. Yeah, well, we're going to probably debut at the New York Comic Con on, so I'll be in New York in the 17th through the 20th during New York Comic Con's from the 17th to the 20th. So I'll have more details when I nail them down, but I think I'm going to be at New York Comic Con. Right? October.
Oh, October. Okay. I'm just making a mental note, so if I can make that trip down there.
yeah. And I've never been to New York Comic Con. I've always wanted to go.
Yeah, it's basically the second biggest one. I mean, there's the San Diego and then there's New York. New York's like the second biggest one, so.
Yeah, so that we're gonna have some kind of a premiere event there, so that'll be great.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Actually, okay. Before I see Rachel's got another question, but before we get to that, Rob, I've been meaning to tell you. I'm gonna tell you this right here, right now. I discovered you because of my love for Toho back in 2019. Okay, you know where I'm going with this. 2019, a little movie came out in the MonsterVerse called Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yep.
You were one of the ones that had the privilege of doing the sneak preview. And by the way,
Mike Doherty invited me to the screening. The director.
Shameless plug though. Please get your NerdCage Live MonsterVerse T-shirt. Shameless plug here. But yes, I saw that you were one of the people on Twitter that saw the movie, and then that led for me to check out your channel, and I watched your sneak peek / review of Godzilla King of the Monsters. So
yeah, people still give me shit for that too.
Really?
Oh, that's a cool shirt. That's a really cool shirt. I love that shirt.
Besides Skull Island, I think to this day that's the best Godzilla MonsterVerse movie in my opinion.
I
wasn't
agree.
a fan of the Godzilla Kong movies, but I loved King of the Monsters and I love Skull Island.
I did too, because I grew up watching first of all, full disclosure, my favorite Godzilla movie actually is not a Godzilla movie, it's Rodan. Rodan is my favorite.
Rodan's fantastic.
Yeah, because it was in color and it scared the shit out of me and I loved it. I loved Rodan. But I mean, I've liked all the eras of Godzilla movies. I liked, oh yeah, there you go. I love Rodan. And is that a remastered version?
It is the Japanese. Okay, don't come at me, people. It's a bootleg, but it is the Japanese.
How dare you?
It's the Japanese version, English subtitles on Blu-ray.
Hey, look, I'm not gonna.
I know a guy who knows a guy, so
yeah. I mean, I bought a lot of things because it's so hard to get Japanese movies subtitled.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, I thought
I've been able to watch in the past few years here. I actually got my hands on a lot of obscure Toho films that have not been properly released in America yet. So, yes, I mean, I'm a bit released in America, just not the Blu-ray, only the DVD.
Yeah, I have the DVD, and but that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of Toho movies like Matango.
I love Matango.
Matango is awesome, and I love Matango, and I have so much Japanese science fiction. I grew up with that stuff.
Have you seen the Human Vapor?
Yes. That's a great movie too.
Good ones from that era of Toho. That was the peak of Ichiro Honda. Like, I love all those old school Ichiro Honda films. H-Man, Human Vapor.
I was just gonna say H-Man and Human Vapor. I always kind of think of together.
Yeah. It's kind of the same theme going. The Mysterians.
The Mysterians. And I love things
Varan,
like Varan's great. Was it Varan the Unbelievable?
Yeah. Full disclosure, I have not seen the American version. I've only seen the Japanese version.
Yeah, well, and then there's also I love movies like Gorath and the Green Slime, and
okay, I did not like Gorath. I'm sorry.
Well, it's kind of stupid, but putting engines on the Earth, and the Japanese ripped it off when they made the Wandering Earth. When I was a kid, I would watch any any Japanese. I loved every. First of all, I love Japanese women.
Yes.
I've never dated a Japanese woman, but I've always loved Japanese women, and which is wild. I don't know why. I just never.
Shout out to Kumi Mizuno, who's in all those.
Oh my
Toho.
God, did I love her?
Yes.
I loved her. Oh my God.
She's my favorite
yeah.
Toho actress. I love everything that she did during that era. Obviously being the alien babe, but like everything else from Matango and War of the Gargantuas and Frankenstein Conquers the World. Everything. Godzilla versus the Steamboat. She was great in everything, and she's
everything.
Candy and she just had a screen presence and very captivating.
Yeah, I mean she wasn't in any, but then I got into the Japanese pinky violence movies with like Rieko.
That I haven't seen.
Oh well, they're like women in prison movies, like girl boss movies, like Yakuza films. But they're like it's sex and violence, and they were all made in like the early. So I graduated from Toho to pinky violence, like Female Prisoner Scorpion, and there's a bunch of great stuff. I mean, I loved the Japanese movies of the 60s and 70s.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just science fiction, but all everything. Whether it's Lone Wolf and Cub, or I love all that shit. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And that was, part of the reason that I think I loved all this stuff is because I was looking for science fiction, fantasy, and horror. We had 3 TV channels, 3 network channels, 2 indie channels, and a PBS channel. So there were only 8 TV stations from the time I was born to the time. I mean, then we got cable in the 80s, but the first 15 years of my life, all you had was that. And when I got a VCR, this is another thing. When I got a VCR, my mom would bring home the TV guide every week. And I would scour the TV guide and I would look at all the movies that were playing like from 11 o'clock at night till, 6 a.m. And I was able to use it. The greatest thing about a VCR is you could time shift movies. You could record them when you were asleep.
Yep.
And that's when I really started to find a lot of movies that I hadn't seen before. And it's weird because today I'm surprised at look, I've been in the YouTube fan space for 9 years.
Yeah.
And I don't like to be critical of people, but fans today, especially younger fans, don't really watch older movies.
Yeah, I know.
And they don't. What's a bummer about it is I talk a lot about this on my channel, how learning how to watching movies is a skill. And some people said, what? I'm like, well, okay, you can sit down and watch a movie, but if you're only watching a certain kind of movie, if you try and go back and watch a subtitled movie, or you watch a kung fu movie and you can't deal with the out of sync voices and the funny effects or whatever, you have to train yourself how to watch various kinds of movies. And I think one of the things that movie fans have said the last 30 years, they've only been watching studio movies and the occasional maybe foreign action film or something. So to try and get somebody to go back and watch the Mysterians, like I love the Mysterians. Give me some.
Rob, you know what it is, man? Truth be told, is I grew up in the era where obviously I had the Joe Bob Briggs Monster Vision and whatnot.
Yeah.
But not only that, but all the Godzilla VHS tapes that I got as gifts or I bought was always like you just said, the English dub. So when the DVDs and the streaming services start rolling out and we'd finally get the proper Japanese versions with the English subtitles, for me as an adult, it was like watching it for the first time again.
Yeah, totally.
Not to mention, I grew up. Okay. So when I was 5-6 years old, I would just fast forward and just watch the monster fights and whatnot.
Yeah.
Eventually, I grew up. But again,
totally.
I grew up with the English dubs, and it was hard to sit through because those English dubs were so. Even as a kid, I thought the dubbing was terrible. But now, as an adult, and seeing it in Japanese with full English subtitles, it's just such a thrill. And if I ever anytime I get my hands on a Toho film or a Jackie Chan film from Hong Kong, that's subtitled, it's just it's a thrill. And that's my preference to watch foreign films.
we're living in a golden age of getting Asian cinema on physical media. You've got companies in the UK like 88 Films and Eureka putting out beautiful versions of Criterion, and then we can get a lot of the Korean film companies a lot of times, or you can get Japanese movies in bootlegs in Hong Kong. Yeah, and it's great stuff. There's great. It's now we can
also,
get everything.
4K. There's no region. 4K is region free.
Most of the time it is. I have some that
Oh,
there's
really?
You gotta be careful.
I actually got. Do you remember Jackie Chan, Michelle Yeoh, Super Cop Police Story 3?
Yeah.
I got that in 4K from Hong Kong, and it plays on my Xbox. Like, sometimes I look out.
That would be our region though. If you were gonna get a 4K from Europe, there's a because Europe is region B.
Okay. The only
so
pain
you gotta
in
be.
the ass was since it was in Cantonese, it was hell trying to go through the menu and find English subtitles, but I found it.
Right. Oh yeah. I just think about I'm when they released, the Godzilla -1, the big box set that everybody was buying that had no Japanese subtitles, and they turned around and said they were going to release it with English subtitles.
I pre-ordered. I'm waiting for. I ordered.
Me
from
too. I was just like, click. Because one of my favorite Godzilla pieces of physical media I have, even though it's not subtitled, was I have a box set for Godzilla Final Wars, which is not the greatest movie in the world, but I don't care because I had the greatest.
It's stupid fun. I was lucky to see that in the theater.
Me too. I saw okay, I gotta tell you, this is hilarious. Yes. This is one of my most famous. So for whatever reason, they decide to have an American premiere of Godzilla Final Wars at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood, arguably the most famous movie theater in the world.
Cool.
And they had a big Godzilla statue, but they brought like the cast from the movie.
Oh.
And the actresses are dressed up in traditional kimonos, and they look beautiful. But I don't think they quite understood how Godzilla movies are perceived in America. Mm-hmm. And this was Godzilla Final Wars, which is just the most people talk about fan service now.
Yeah.
But that movie is and every monster fight, the American, because in Japan, they don't scream and yell like this in movie theaters. It was like being at a WWF event. Yeah. And people were screaming and I couldn't stop laughing when the controller, when Godzilla's fighting Roland Emmerich's Godzilla in Sydney, Australia, and Godzilla wastes our stupid Godzilla, our CG guy. It was literally a man in a suit fighting a CG Godzilla. It was amazing. And the controller's like, when that Godzilla was defeated, the controller's like, I knew that salmon eating iguana was good for nothing. And I couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And when it was over, the audience just was like standing ovation and people are just screaming. And I think the Japanese actors are like, what's happening? Like they didn't understand.
Oh, no.
But then they realized that they got up and as soon as the cast and crew got up and went to the front of the theater, people screamed even louder. And then they, I just would love to have spoke Japanese and talked to one of those women in the kimonos going, what did you guys think was going to happen?
My story parallels yours, man, and I'm excited to share this story. I don't know if I've shared this with NerdCage Nation, but I'm going to share this story right here with you. This might be something you're familiar. So do you remember back in the old days of the internet, we had monsterzero.net?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yes. That's how I found out. Okay, obviously I knew Final Wars was a thing. I knew about Final Wars, but I checked. I went to monsterzero.net every day just to see if there was any screenings of Final Wars within my vicinity. Lo and behold, Rob, you may be familiar with this place because you're a filmmaker. The George Eastman House Theater in Rochester, New York.
Yep. I've never been there, but I know it.
Yes.
Because it's George Eastman.
Yes, exactly. So so me and my co-host Joe, first and foremost, I went up to Joe. I'm like, hey Joe, what are you doing today? He's like, oh, nothing. I was like, hey, do you want to take a little trip with me? We'll go to Rochester to see this unreleased Godzilla movie. Joe's just like, okay, let's go. We're driving there, and I'm fresh. We're fresh out of high school. I'm 18, fresh out of high school, and I'm like, I kept thinking like, oh my God, there's gonna be like nobody there. We're gonna be some of these random people going to see a random movie. We pull up into the parking lot. This is back in the day when MapQuest was a thing. no GPS, MapQuest. I had all this directions printed out. We pull up into the parking lot, and there's people tailgating, blasting Godzilla music, selling Godzilla toys. I'm like, holy shit. I felt like I was at a sporting event. People tailgating. And I was like, oh my God, everyone's here for this Godzilla movie. And we're all waiting in line. We're all talking like, yeah, and everyone just said, yeah, it was because of MonsterZero.net and blah, 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 blah. And then, and then we all sat down. It was a packed theater. And as soon as the Toho logo came on screen, everyone like roared in the, like everyone went crazy. It was nuts. It was the craziest movie going experience I ever had. But yeah, I drove an hour and a half back in the summer of 2005 before it was released on DVD in America.
Yeah, that's what.
85 came out before I was born. I was born in 86.
Yeah.
2000 was the first Japanese Godzilla movie I seen, and Final Wars was the second, and it was such a thrill. It was
interesting, because it's the high C era, before Millennium era. The 90s, there was so many great, like I loved Godzilla versus Mothra. And I loved GMK, and I loved Ghidra. The time traveling when the Americans are the villains.
Yes, the World War II. Yeah,
it's so good. They were actually like legitimate science fiction films. I really liked that era a lot. I like those movies a lot. I love the designs. I love the fact that they brought back like all the maser cannons and the cool animation, because these laser beams give me that stuff. I love it. Yes. I love it. And yeah, I mean, I fell back in love with it.
I would love to see, whether if Toho does it or if the MonsterVerse does it, I want to see
that, with Legendary buying the rights to do Toho movies. I'm surprised they haven't remade, because War of the Gargantuas was a movie that sort of broke free of Toho.
Toho monster movie.
Yes. Yeah, because everyone saw it when we were kids, man. And it's like they could totally make that today. Money, I'd try and get that greenlit. I mean, it'd be great to do that.
Hell, I'd ask Tim Burton to do it.
Oh.
He's been vocal.
Maybe you should do that after Beetlejuice.
Yeah. By the way, did you see Beetlejuice yet? Because I know that the reviews are out.
No, it just premiered the Venice.
Interviews for Joe Blow. We interviewed Jenna Ortega, Catherine O'Hara,
nice.
Monica Bellucci. The Beetlejuice interviews that just went up yesterday. I edited those, so it was cool because I got to use my, some of my, my Beetlejuice assets and my spooky stuff. So I had an excuse to use it for that interview. I'm so excited. This is a good transition, and I also got some gaming questions for you, because I know someone in the chat wants to ask gaming questions. But we just mentioned that, like, we live in an era of Hollywood where, like, we're getting, like, there's nothing new. Like, it's just like like Hollywood's running out of ideas, and we keep getting like tributes and this and that. So 2 films just recently came out. I want to talk to you about. And I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you on one of them. So, Deadpool Wolverine just came out, obviously, and I thought that was like a nice tribute to the Fox era of Marvel films. I didn't feel like it was like redundant or anything. It was fun. But what I did find redundant and not good, and I didn't think it was tastefully done, Alien Romulus. And people have been polarizing. I did not like it. I didn't hate it, but I did not like it because I thought it was shameless.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's not like Alien and Aliens are 2 of the greatest sci-fi horror films ever made.
Yeah.
And I would dare say that David Fincher's, especially the assembly cut on Blu-ray of Alien 3, well, it's not a pleasant movie to watch, but I love it. It's beautifully shot, and my friend Charlie de Lauzarica, who did the documentaries on the Alien anthology, was telling me last week when I was talking to him, he goes, Alien is about life. Alien is about birth. Aliens is about life, and Alien 3 is about death. Yeah. Especially if you watch, and I love that because I really do love that if you look at it from a certain perspective. I was saying this the other night on one of my shows, that Fiorina, the planet in Alien 3, is essentially hell. And those convicts are in purgatory. And an alien, basically the devil is unleashed amongst them and will destroy them all. And while it doesn't have look, Aliens is just fun. It's so much fun to watch that movie. Alien is one of the great skin-crawling science fiction horror films ever made that asks real existential questions about man's place in the universe. And that movie had such a profound effect on me when I saw it in the theater the first time. It was just, it was amazing. But Alien Romulus is, first of all, as everyone said, it plays like a greatest hits collection.
Yeah.
But at its core, even down to like the end, they rip off the end of Resurrection with the human hybrid. And when I was watching, the movie had nothing to say, though. The Alien films always have some kind of a subtext or have something interesting going on. For the most part, I mean, even Prometheus, for all of its flaws, is a beautiful film, but there's a lot of intriguing ideas in it. And I kept watching Alien Romulus with all the. How do you talk about how great your practical effects are, and then stick in the middle of it the Ash robot? The recreation of Ian Holm.
I'll give that. Okay, so Rob, I'll give that a pass because I feel like that technology is not there yet.
No, but
it's
they talk all about.
But it's
it
not
is,
there
but they
yet.
talk.
So I wasn't too mad about it.
But they could have done Fassbender, or they could have de-aged Lance Henriksen or something. I mean, they could have done something. It's fine. I understand where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, for me, Alien Romulus had nothing to say.
Yeah.
It didn't have much of a subtext, and it just repeated beats from other Alien movies.
That's what I didn't like about it. It was cut, copy, and paste, and I just thought it was
and there was nothing new. Like we saw a facehugger attack in Aliens, just like we saw them go into, like they find a hive, like they found in Aliens.
Yeah.
And then there's the Prometheus stuff and the Alien Resurrection stuff, and it's like. And a lot of Alien, and I'm like, where's your movie, Fede Alvarez? Where's your Alien movie where you have some unique, interesting idea to do something that no one's seen with the Xenomorphs before? Not what everyone's seen done 10 different ways.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get your opinion on. Is there a concern in Hollywood where they're just running out of original ideas, whether if it's a rehash or a remake or just...
I think, look, I have to say I'm going to talk about this tonight on my own YouTube show, but there's a movie out now called Strange Darling that everybody should go see. It's a fucking banger.
Yeah, Joe Blow interviewed the cast.
Oh, for anybody who can go, I cannot recommend highly enough how you should go see Strange Darling, but don't read anything about it. Go in as cold as you can. And the thing is, it's not a studio movie. The real problem with Hollywood is that as a business, the Hollywood studios are now catering to the worldwide market.
Yep.
When we were growing up, Hollywood was making movies for a domestic market. And so, you could make even a big movie like in 1990, Hunt for Red October was a $30 million movie. Now they'd make it for $200 million and it would be a 10-part streaming series on Amazon. But I love that movie. John McTiernan coming off of Die Hard, directing Hunt for Red October. And so you make a movie for $30 million, it only has to make 200 to be in profit. Yeah, actually with that, it would only have to be, it only have to make 120 million before it's in profit. So Hollywood would make big literary adaptations with lots of special effects and big stars for $30 million. And the movies would do really, really well. But nowadays, Hollywood wants to spend $150 to $200 million, if not more, on one movie, and they want it to be a global hit, and they're chasing after $1 billion. So with that much money involved, with the spend of $150 to $200 million, and then the advertising and everything, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars to make these big budget movies. The last thing in the world Hollywood wants to do is take a chance.
Yeah.
They're like, unless we know it's going to hit, we're not going to make this. So Hollywood can't. They're in a position where they actually can't make new and unique, interesting movies. They have to make IP. If you look at the release schedule of 2025, which I'll talk about tonight again on my show, there's like 5 movies compared to 30 sequels. I mean, we're getting Insidious 6 and Scary Movie 6 next year. And it's just like, wow, we're getting horror films that are up to the 6th version of the franchise and parody horror films that are up to the 6th sequel. And it's like, it's so depressing because I lived through that golden age the end of elementary school, junior high, and high school, the 70s to the 80s, we had all kinds of original movies. You know, the month of May of 1982, people talk about it, but in May you got Conan the Barbarian and like The Road Warrior came out. Yeah. And then in June you had E.T., Blade Runner, The Thing, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Poltergeist, all in 1 month. I mean, that was amazing. And that's because Hollywood and the filmmakers in Hollywood were making these incredible visionary films, and they were, but they didn't cost very much, not compared to today. And the movies were making money. And then you had the home video era, and everybody was picking them up on home video. So that was great too.
I wish I could have lived that, but yes, what you just named, all excellent films. Excellent films. Okay, so Rob, can I borrow you for like 10 more minutes?
Of course, man. Whatever you need.
Because I was hoping we could get to this. I figured now is a good transition. By the way, everything well said. By the way, please, everybody, please subscribe to the Burnettwork. The link is in the description. Everybody, please sub up Rob. Give him a follow on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Always does great live streams. Always have some.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thought-provocative stuff, takes on filmmaking and movies, and just please check out Rob's work over at the Burnettwork and subscribe to him. Please do that right here, right now, everybody in NerdCage Nation. Now, Rob, I know I've seen you play games with John Campea, so I have to ask, transitioning from movies to games, what are some of your favorite games of all time? What are your games? What games are you playing right? If you have time to play games, what games are you playing right now? What games do you want to play, and what were your like favorite growing up and whatnot? I'd love to hear your take on some games.
So Atari 2600. The first gaming system I ever had was this. It was Pong, but it was this really cool, like, futuristic control panel. I want to say it was called Coleco Telstar, I think. But then, which I loved. But then the 2600 came out, and I love that. But I never got one. My first gaming console was Intellivision, which I think was the first 8-bit console. And my neighborhood friend, we played the Intellivision sports games because they were great. I mean, it had weird controllers, but the football, the baseball, all the games. There was a game called Utopia, another game called Sea Battle. We would have we made our neighborhood like leagues, and people would come go head to head, and and I loved Intellivision. And then as I got older, I mean, I loved arcade games as well. Yeah. My all-time favorite arcade game, I think, is probably Defender and Stargate.
Nice.
I love those games.
Our friend Drew Stone from Stone Films NYC, he's a he's also a Jewish filmmaker, but he's out in New York City. He does documentaries on the hardcore music scene. He's also done music. He did music videos for Madonna, Biohazard. Oh, wow. Great dude, friend of the channel.
That's great.
His favorite game was also Defender.
Yeah, Defender was great. There was a side-scrolling game I was obsessed with called Scramble, where you're at a kind of a fat spaceship and you had to go through these tunnels. I loved Scramble. But then, playing all the different kinds of arcade games as I got older, and then vector graphics games. I love Tempest and other Williams games like Joust. Sinistar. I love Sinistar was great. Sinistar was great. Galaga. All that stuff was great. But then when I went to college, I didn't really play games in the later 80s. And it wasn't until console systems in the 90s that, whether it was Saturn, whether it was Nintendo, whether it was PlayStation, I mean, I had a first generation PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 2 and Xbox. And I love those. You know what I love? There was a game called God, what's it? It's called Gun something Valkyrie. Why am I drawing a blank on this? Why am I drawing a blank on this game? It was I love this game. It was an Xbox game. And Gun Valkyrie. It was called something Gun Valkyrie. I love that game. Anyway, I love that game. but I was the first video game that I got totally obsessed with was when I was making Free Enterprise, and it was 1998. Now I had loved like the Nintendo. I love the N64. I love the physics. Like I remember in the first level of, I guess it was Shadows of the Empire, when you use a snow speeder and take down the AT-AT. It was just a replay. Yeah, Dash. But it was the physics of the snow speeder. I was really impressed by that. I really loved the N64 and then the GameCube.
I'm not really. I used to be a Star Wars fan. I'm not a Star Wars fan no more, but I love Rogue Squadron on N64. That was one I.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it was great. They had great stuff, and then I guess it was PlayStation 2. I loved Racer, the pod racer game. But that game I played all the time. But the game that I was completely obsessed by in the 90s, because this company that I work for was doing sound design for it, and it was Activision's remake of Battleground. And they made so the new Battleground, is that the right name? Is it Battleground? Yeah, it is, but with a tank game. So they updated it, and this is 98, and it was a combination of first person shooter and a real-time strategy game. And so the premise was the Cold War never ended, and it moved to Mars and Venus and Mercury, and you battled the Soviets on the planets. And what you had to do is you had to build a base that started manufacturing it would take raw minerals, and you'd build buildings with whatever you could make. And then you were driving in a tank, and if you wanted to, you could eject out of your tank, and you could like climb up on a ridge and sit there and wait till the enemies can. And the physics of that game, the floating tanks, I was so obsessed with this game. I couldn't stop playing it. I just couldn't stop playing. I played it endlessly. It probably got in the way of me editing Free Enterprise because I couldn't. And the company that I work for had this surround sound. They were making surround sound for it, so they had this. I would play it in this room that had the sound. It was so much fun to play, and I was totally obsessed by it. So that I played until. Then I started to get into PlayStation. My friend Sean had the first PlayStation 1, and then PlayStation 2. And I think that's the first time I played like Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, by the way, Joe, my co-host, it's Battlezone.
That's what I meant. Yeah, I mean, it's Battlezone. Well, I don't know why I got it wrong. I'm getting old. I'm slipping in my old age.
Battlefield, there's a lot of
Yeah, I was thinking Battleground like 1983 or something, whatever. But yeah, it's Battlezone. Everyone knows Battlezone. It was a vector graphics game in the 80s, and that game also had very interesting physics, but that was just vector graphics. But the updated Battlezone, I mean, I love it. I love to play it again. You can get emulations and stuff, but it wasn't the same. It was a keyboard game, and
how we feel, so.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I loved that game. But then it was Grand Theft Auto 3. I mean, with Sean, I played all kinds of PlayStation games. But the first game, again, after I got obsessed, it was after I got married, and I got obsessed with Grand Theft Auto 3 for PlayStation.
That was all the rage when, I was in middle school when that first came out, and it was all the rage.
Oh my God. And then the Grand Theft Auto franchise, you play San Andreas, and it was, I remember when they added, was it San Andreas where they added bikes? You could have gang members on bikes, and I was playing through the 90s was Madden. Because I had friends, because those sports games were great games to play with your friends because you could play you could have people come over and play, but I love Madden because you could spend all night long playing Madden with your friends. You get a couple of 6-packs of beer, and if you had like 3 people, you could rotate. Play the winner, and it was so much fun.
I may be a nerd, but I'm a sports fiend myself, and
I mean,
FIFA.
You're
a Seahawks fan. Do you have any predictions for the Seattle Seahawks this year? Because it took 10 years for Geno Smith to finally get good. So I think that
reading up about the different changes they made on their roster and stuff this week. I think they've got an interesting. It'll be interesting to see where they go. We'll know. Is the first regular season game this weekend?
Next weekend.
Next week. It's after Labor Day weekend. First opening. Yep. Yeah. I can't wait. So we'll see. But I still love sports games, But I think the last game that I got obsessed with was Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut. And I had to buy the figure. You know, I got this beautiful 12-inch figure from Ghost of Tsushima. It's so good. But yeah, I mean, I love the Rockstar open world games. And I was disappointed by Cyberpunk. I was really looking forward to Cyberpunk when it first came out. But it was so
I understand
buggy.
they improved the game with the update.
Yeah, they did.
But it had a very rocky start.
It did. It had a rocky start, but I was just looking forward to it. But I like those kinds of games now that I really liked Grand Theft Auto 5. And, you know, I thought it was great. I love the story mode. And then it was interesting because then they really added interactivity to it. I am not somebody who goes online and plays games against other people because I have my ass handed to me.
Yeah,
only because I don't have enough time to get
having someone on the couch with me, and you know.
Yeah. Well, it's
and
like
I enjoy a good story campaign mode too. So.
Yeah, I that's what Grand Theft Auto 5 had that. But like when they added the online component to Grand Theft Auto 5, I started to play a lot of that, but it got frustrating because, you know, I would always get killed because I didn't have I was working. I'm an adult, you know, making movies. I don't have enough time to spend playing video games. And so there's a learning curve that I'll never get to. And like some of the Grand Theft, when they first made Grand Theft Auto 5 online, there's a lot of racing games. Like I love racing games. Like I love the Burnout franchise.
Yes.
I don't know if you played that. Like, and I remember when PlayStation 3 came out, they had Burnout Paradise. Was that a launch title? I think it might have been Burnout Paradise. I fucking loved I played Burnout Paradise. Oh, and another game that I love where is the PlayStation 5 SSX, the snowboarding game?
Oh, okay.
I loved SS. I
used to love that.
I loved
PlayStation.
God damn, did I love SSX and SSX Tricky. But where is it? Oh, and I love the Capcom games. I loved this is PlayStation 2. It shows how old I am. I loved Onimusha, the 3 Onimusha game. I love
Sabagh.
I remember when the first Devil May Cry came out. I'm like, people are talking about, oh, it's so good. I'm like, come on, how good can it be?
Yes.
Dude, I put that shit in. I'm like, this is dope.
You're a Resident Evil fan because we play that on Twitch all the time.
I do. Here's the thing. It wasn't as fun for me as the Onimusha stuff. I mean, I like Resident Evil.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it for whatever reason as much. I don't know why. Because they're good. I love the Silent Hill games. You know, I like that stuff. And another game, you know what I really liked? I loved Ico and Shadow of Colossus.
Yes.
And these are times when I was playing this is all PlayStation 2 stuff. Yeah. And then they upgraded. I guess Burnout Paradise was that PlayStation. No, it was PlayStation 3, wasn't it? Or was it 4? Or was it PlayStation 4?
Someone in the chat room, I believe so.
Yeah, I think it was. It might have been 4. It might have been 4. I don't know. Yeah, but so those are. I mean, I would like to game a lot more.
Same here. I game on Twitch, but on my free time, I don't have to. I work an overnight job. I work on NerdCage all the time, and of course I edit for Joe Blow, so I don't have time to play games on my own. But I play on Twitch, and it gives me. And I'm glad I get to revisit these old games that we do on Twitch. But
I'll tell you,
2025, Rob, I'm so excited. We're finally getting that Perfect Dark remake on Xbox. We're getting Doom: The Dark Ages. We're getting a new Gears of War prequel, and we're getting Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, and Indiana Jones.
2025 might be the best year of game in my lifetime, probably since 1998. I'm so excited.
You just reminded me of another game that I really loved was and why am I drawing a blank on this game? Nathan Drake. God,
they just did the movie with Tom Holland too.
Yeah. Why am I drawing a blank on this game? So I'll tell you about the first Uncharted. So the first Uncharted game that came out, I want to say 2007. sometime around 2007, and I bought Uncharted, and I read it was good. I hadn't talked to anybody who played it, and I put it in, and I was blown away by the graphics, the gameplay, the characters. And it was the first time I felt that they had nailed, like you look at, it's so, now that I'm thinking about gaming, I mean, like Last of Us, but I think about Uncharted was the first time I was so absorbed in the story.
Yeah.
Because the characters and the voice acting and the design work and the beautiful backgrounds and the environments and the gameplay, it was the first time I sat down and I played the game all the way through. I finished it in one sitting.
Yeah, because the storytelling in the game has gotten so much better and
so much better. And it took me like 15 hours, but I wouldn't say I beat it, but I finished it.
Yeah.
And Uncharted, I love the Uncharted franchise. But nothing was like, it was like when you first take ecstasy for the first time that's uncut. Pure MDMA. The first time you take pure ecstasy, it's fantastic. That was what playing Uncharted was like.
Yeah. No,
pure uncut, the experience. And it was, man, I loved it. I love that game. And it showed me the possibilities. And then I think from there, I went to things like Metal Gear Solid, and
we're waiting. Here's the thing, we're waiting. I just played Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 for the first time on Twitch. For the first time. I know, don't at me, people, but for the first time, I got to experience it with Joe on Twitch. So now we're not going to play 3 because we're waiting for the remake of 3 to come out, and it's supposed to come out this year, but Konami hasn't given us a release date yet. So I'm holding off on playing Metal Gear 3, Solid 3, let me specify, Metal Gear Solid 3, because we're waiting for the remake of Snake Eater to come out. So we're waiting. We're just playing the waiting game, and once we get that release date, shameless plug, we'll be playing Metal Gear Solid 3 at launch on twitch.tv/NerdCage Live. People be there for that. So yeah, but yeah, Metal Gear.
Yeah.
We need a Metal Gear movie.
I cannot believe there hasn't been one. That's just like, what?
I
That's
forgot
so
the
weird.
actor's name, but Kojima was talking about how that one actor from Furiosa, the love interest there.
Oh yeah.
He was like, that's my Solid Snake. He should play Solid Snake. And then after he pointed that out, I'm like, yeah, he could be Solid Snake.
Yeah, he could be.
Yeah,
I follow him on X on Twitter. Kojima-san, he's the best.
Yes.
Love that
guy. All right, so it's 10:15 here in the East Coast, Rob, and I know you have a show to do, so we'll wrap things up here. But I got one more question for you, Rob. I'm putting you on the spot. I don't mean to make it awkward, but I'm going to do it anyway. Rob Meyer Burnett, would you like to come back on NerdCage Live sometime and we can just chop it up some more?
Absolutely, 100%. This was fun.
Absolutely. Of course. So listen, we're going to wrap things up here, but Rob, anything you want to plug, go ahead. And if you have a message for our audience, please, the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, yes. I mean, as everyone knows, I'm working on an audio drama, fully immersive audio drama, multi-channel audio drama that's based on the detective novels of Max Allan Collins, who wrote the graphic novel that Road to Perdition was based on. And it's called True Noir, The Assassination of Anton Cermak. And I'm really excited about it. In a way, it takes place, it has the same characters that were in The Untouchables, like Elliot Ness that Kevin Costner played in the movie. And it's half fictionalized and half based on history. But it's like film noir, it's gangsters, it's detectives, it's women that are bad for you, and it's double crossing. And I've been directing this since May, and we're finishing up all the voice acting the next couple weeks. I'm really proud of it. I've never directed something that I had such creative control over. And on Instagram, I just published, my composer gave me a 6-track EP of the music. It's a very smoky, jazzy score, so check that out. And if you like what you hear, we're 15 days away. We need to raise another $10,000 on Kickstarter. So go to our Kickstarter. It's just truenoir.co, or go to Kickstarter and look up True Noir. Any little bit would help, and you can pre-order the series. We're already making the series, but we just did the Kickstarter to gauge it. So if you want to buy a digital download, you want to buy a Blu-ray, you can do that, or you can just support the show. I guarantee you're going to love it. And it's got, as I said before, actors like Katie Sackhoff from Mandalorian and Battlestar Galactica and Longmire. to Bill Sadler, who played Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and he was in Shawshank. He was the villain in Die Hard 2. I mean, I'm so C. Thomas Howell, Pony Boy himself, is in it. Big Pussy Bumpensero, Vincent Pastore is in it. It's from The Sopranos. It's great. It's really turning out well, and I'm delighted by it. So check that out.
We can definitely check that out. And I'll be sure to add that. I'll add that link in the description as well.
And since it is 2024, I will quote the great Buckaroo Banzai, whose movie is 40 years old this year. Remember, wherever you go, there you are.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
Rob, thank you so much, and we'll be sure, everybody be sure to sub up Rob over at the Burnettwork. Also sub up John Campy on the John Campy Show. You see him there from time to time. Check out all of Rob's work. Again, we couldn't ask for a better person to come and guest on the show. We couldn't ask for a better person to represent our fandom. So thank you, Rob, for everything you do.
You are most kind, Jay.
2019, and like I said, when I'm at work working overnights, I love listening on your show and your replays of your show, and it's just I just like I said, your work and your fandom's so captivating, man. It's just been a real treat, a real honor having you here tonight. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. You're very kind. It's it's very funny. I lived in a world growing up where I was like a minority of one. I didn't know any nerds, and now I live in a universe where everyone's a nerd, and it's the greatest thing ever.
Absolutely. All right, we'll just put a few things real quick. If you haven't already, guys, please check out our Beetlejuice Haunted Apple Fanta. It was gross. But check out our food review, as well as our Wednesday cereal food
Apple
review.
Fanta.
Check out our interview with Hyle Russell of DKVine.com. We're going to be on Twitch tomorrow at midnight. Joe's working until 11, so we're going to be at Twitch at midnight playing Max Payne, the original on PS2. Tuesday, we'll be playing Batman Arkham Asylum. And keep your eyes out. I will be at the Cleveland Gaming Classic from September 18th through the 22nd with Tabloid99, Toasty, and Justin McCollum. So keep your eyes out for that. And we're going to be playing Mortal Kombat 1 Chaos Reigns on twitch.tv/NerdCage Live at launch on Tuesday, September 24th. Real quick, everybody, we'll be taking next week off because I have commitments next week. But we'll be back in 2 weeks with a major announcement, maybe two major announcements. Stay tuned. I will post the link when we are ready. And of course, get yourself a NerdCage Live t-shirt. If you haven't already, go to our TeePublic. We have all these awesome shirt designs, various designs here. Again, any size, any color, whether if you're a skinny booty call or a fat fuck, big or small, we love them all. Our t-shirts go from small all the way to 5XL, so you got no excuse. We also have hoodies, magnets, tote bags, pillows, coffee mugs, you name it. So get yourself a NerdCage Live t-shirt. You're going to love the way you look. I guarantee it. This is the best way to support the show because the small percentage we get from every shirt we sell goes towards the channel and goes towards giveaways and all that good stuff. So we appreciate your support. The link to our TeePublic is in every video, description of every video, and across all social media. And speaking of social media, join our Discord server, join our Facebook discussion group, that's NerdCage Nation, and of course follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at nerd_cage to keep up with all of our updates and all that good stuff. Again, big thank you to Robert Meyer Burnett. Can't wait to chop it up with you again. So until then, everybody, we please ask you to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and spread that shit like syphilis. So the USA from yours truly, Syracuse, New York, Los Angeles, California, to all of our friends and fans around the world at NerdCage Live and the Burnettwork. As always, enjoy life. Stay safe. Eat your vegetables. Do your push-ups. Go to the gym. All that good stuff. Good night. God bless. And have the best day of your life. And good night.
NerdCage Live and gaming are a perfect match.
Shoot the J, Joe. Okay. Shoot it!
All right.
Over on NerdCage Live on Twitch, Jay and Joe go live.
Call me Bazooka Joe. It's all about you.
Kaboom!
playing both old school and new school games every Tuesday night. Ooh, what a sight!
Jay, stop looking at her face and run.
But she's so beautiful.
So be sure to follow NerdCage Live on Twitch.
Run for your life, Joe. Run for your life, Joe.
Running.
Run faster. Oh no, Joe, the galaxy's doomed because of you.
To scratch your gaming itch.
Oh, nice kick, Joe.
Thank you.
Yo, that's f***ing diabolical. Wait. Yo!
That's twitch.tv/NerdCage Live.
Ooh, trying to get out of the nerd cage, are ya? Well, before you go, hit that subscribe button. And if you're really intrigued, ring that bell. Thank you for dropping by. Until next time, tell everyone you know about NerdCage Live!